Project Looking Glass is very real and it's happening right now as you're watching this video, and that is super freaking creepy. Now, if you don't know what Project Looking Glass is, that's perfectly acceptable. I didn't know a lot about it either up until about 4 hours ago. Anyways, to give you an idea, Project Looking Glass is basically this machine that people get into, and it can tell you every different timeline of the future and what happens if they do this or somebody does this. What would happen to humanity and how would they react? Now, this is a conspiracy that goes very deep, and it's one of them that never freaking dies, so maybe there's something behind it, and there is. It just may not involve all the cool aliens and all the weird Vatican stuff that's going on all the time. Now, the reason I'm bringing up aliens and Vatican and all that other stuff is because originally Project Looking Glass supposedly happened whenever a UFO crash landed. They took it back to Area 51, and after examining it, they found out that if they put somebody in the pilot's seat, that it would kind of react to them, and they would be able to see different timelines of the future. Supposedly you had to be extra psychic to be able to do this, and if you was really connected to it, you could even manipulate the future, which is pretty interesting. Now, if you want to look into it, it goes even deeper, talking about how in 2012 the timeline was supposed to end, but it didn't because there was a spaceship guy that helped save humanity in order to gather information, go back to the future, even though he was originally another human, but he goes to another planet and saves humanity. It gets all over the place. But the reason I say Project Looking Glass is very real and not include any conspiracies is because there was some technology invented, I don't know, like 20 years ago that does exactly what Project Looking Glass says it does. And that is to be able to predict the future while also knowing exactly how humanity is going to react to everything that you do to them. And who is this owned by? By the freaking military and mega corporations. Now, if you're curious what the name of this technology is, it is called Sentient World Simulator, and it was invented some like 20 years ago, but the whole basis of it is you take a lot of these different inputs, whether that's how people react to the bank collapsing, or how people react to a stock going up, or how people react to wars, and you take all these little data points and you put them in. However, the Sentient World Simulator runs on real-time data, so this is where it gets really interesting, because whenever it was invented in the first place, they didn't have tons of storage. Now they do. Like, whenever I talk about storage, I'm talking about like computer storage. They needed like tons and tons of storage in order for this thing to run more accurately, because the more data points you use, the more accurate it is. Now, back whenever it first started, they used millions of data points. Now though, it's very easy to gather data on literally everybody, no matter how you want to do it. I mean, they can just hop on out there and buy all the data off of Facebook and everybody else that sells our data. But whenever it was first invented with only a couple million data points versus billions of data points, it was able to kind of give you a pretty good prediction of what would happen if, say, you cut off the water to some other country. How would they act? How would their military act? And it had a very high accuracy at that time. Now, a lot of people are like, well, humans aren't that predictable, and that's true on a individual scale. However, if you group a ton of people, you can kind of pick out points that happen no matter what the individual person does, because as a collective, we do kind of repeat patterns over and over and over. And if you ever dive into statistics of, say, I don't know, like workplace accidents, well, that's whenever you can really see how well statistics work, because it's almost comparable every single year. There might be a little bit of a fluctuation here or there, but they know on average that there's going to be this many workplace accidents, or there's going to be this many things happening. Now, just imagine that you had these kind of cool statistics and then you multiply them by, I don't know, 1,000,000. How would that work? Well, you would know the probability at a very high percentage of almost everything. And while, like I said, it's not 100% accurate, whenever you can go and do something like, say, cause a war or release some files or do this, and know within like 99% accuracy that this is what's going to be the outcome, that's good enough in most cases. I mean, I would take a 99% bet every single freaking time. And if things go south, they just need to run it through the simulation to figure out how to make people calm down, and there is probably a 99% probability that they will eventually get over whatever is happening to them at the moment. So while Project Looking Glass is a really cool conspiracy theory, and I do like the origins of it and everything else, it's just you don't need all the alien technology or like even the chronovisor that the Vatican supposedly has that could see Jesus back in the day. You just don't need that. Whenever you need to see what happens if you do something to somebody, well, this is a pretty good machine to do this, and this also gives them the ability to kind of manipulate humanity to do what they need them to do, which is a very fucking scary thing. But anyways, I see Project Looking Glass pop up all the time, and I wanted to give everybody kind of a rundown of what it was, but how we don't even really need like extraterrestrial conspiracy theory things to be happening because it's just out there in the real world anyways. So if you enjoyed that, you're more than welcome to follow me. I'll do a deep dive on some other things. However, there is a 99% probability that you won't. It'd be cool if those odds got broken, but let's be honest here, they usually don't. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic day. I just thought that was really interesting. I figured you all get a kick out of it too. So, okay, bye.